like to turn it over to the founder and director of the University of Waterloo's Problem Lab to give us the talk, Mavericks, Tech Empires of the Past, Present, and Future. Thank you, Ray.
Thank you, Nabil. Thank you. It's certainly my pleasure to be with you this afternoon. I've spent most of my life fascinated by both technology and enterprise. So to be in a room of people who are either technology or technology and enterprise, I'm just a seriously happy camper. And you guys drive me crazy. I have to say this. I have to begin by this. Because while I absolutely like being here, and I leaped at Nabil's invitation, and I appreciate the effort he's put in organizing this. Yeah, one of the reasons I'm here is because you so badly frustrate me. So I'm here to contribute to my mental health by getting rid of some of these frustrations. My frustrations are driven by one single important consideration, which is you have dual personalities. Like would you sit on a personality? Will you decide who you are? Because then when you're talking to me, it makes the conversation much more easy. But you don't. You have two different personalities. Yes, you, the tech community, you, the tech community of Waterloo region, you, the tech community of North America, you, the tech community in California. I have taught 23,000 people. My spies are everywhere, so I've got California covered from the top to the bottom. And all of its major industries. My spies are in every single major enterprise in North America, not just Canada. As Nabil said, the co-op system is the most extraordinary attribute of the University of Waterloo. If I take a dozen 22-year-olds, undergraduates at the University of Waterloo, their range of industrial experience is greater than any other random selection of undergraduates anywhere on the planet. Stanford, eat your heart out. MIT, die with envy. We have something you can't even come close to. You have 22-year-olds with no experience. I got 22-year-olds with the same degree of talent, and they have remarkable experience. Those 12 people together, because of the number of co-op jobs they could have and the number of companies they could have been at, could have like 20 different employers of all the marquee names of North America, covering the whole span of enterprise and technology. Now, this is an amazing group of people for me to work with, which makes it impossible for me to retire. Everyone expects me to drop dead in the class soon, and I probably shall. I will try not to do that before I finish my remarks. However, so put your minds at ease. Now, the problem with this is this dual personality you have. As Nabil said, I like talking about Mavericks. I like Mavericks. I like Mavericks in my office. You know, Mavericks, rebels, agents of radical change, disruptors, radical disruptors. The men and women who take old empires and kick them into the dustbin of history while replacing them with new mighty empires, creating vast value, transforming society, changing social norms. Like really, that is like wonderful stuff. I want more of that. I want more heroes. I want more heroes for enterprise. I want more heroes of technology. I want you pushing the boundaries ever more aggressively. Yes, I do. And sometimes you sit in my office saying, that's what you're doing. And I salute you. I say, how can I help you? And we can. The Problem Lab, which I'll talk about in a few minutes, we have help for the rebels, the Mavericks. And of course, you celebrate this. You celebrate this culture. Don't tell me that I've just somehow described you and you think, whoa, not me. Of course. You know the iconic names. You know the origin stories. You know, in the olden days, the origin used to be the origin story of the universe, or your religious belief. Now your origin story is Mark the Boy Wonder and what he did to create Facebook. Larry, not me, the other one. And Sergio, well, you know these names. You expect Elon Musk to walk across San Francisco Harbor. He will one day, undoubtedly, on his own force of personality, or he'll have anti-gravity shoes. You know the kind of stuff that Elon likes announcing. The coolest technology at an unknown price to be delivered at an unknown time in the future with no existing production facility. But you know these are heroes. You know who Bill Gates is. You think he's an old man, but you still understand that he's one of the wealthiest persons on earth. So, all these names, the Larry Ellisons, all these great icons of modern technology, the heroes, the Mavericks. One of them has actually called his son Maverick. Now, if you want to have a kid beaten up relentlessly, in school, name your kid Maverick and send them out into the school system of America. I suppose it was a way to make them tough, I don't know. Strange view of parenting as far as I'm concerned. So you have all this like rebellion. You celebrate the rebels. You know their stories. And then, within a nanosecond, sitting in my very office, and sometimes when I'm out visiting you on site, no, I'm not a stalker, but I like knowing what's going on, that I'm out there. And you know what? In a nanosecond, you switch from being rebel, maverick, hero, to, well, I'm a farm kid. I'm a farm kid, and we have chickens, free-range chickens, you know, not organic chickens. We've always had organic chickens, we just know now they're organic and can double the price from the city slickers who are, you know, but anyway. And I come out there, and I still feed the chickens. I like feeding the chickens. I like basic stuff. I like all the tech, but I also like basic chickens. I go out there with the feed, and you know what the chickens do? Just like you. They herd together. They rush at the fence. They are looking for their damn carrot. They step on each other, knock each other down. Yes, let's be honest, ladies and gentlemen. The tech world has a herd-like mentality. You sometimes make me think that chickens are free thinkers compared to how you react to things. Don't you? Oh, look at them all looking, who, me, innocent. Do they really, really, really? You see, I've lived through all of this. Do you know why I love disruptive technology? Because I've been part of the disruption. I've experienced it emotionally. You read about disruptions, but most of you are too young to have watched IBM be replaced by Microsoft. Some of the first employees of Microsoft are my former students. Yes, that's how old I am. Swear, I won't die before done. See, I have watched IBM, which once was the colossus that bestride the computer world, a company so powerful that it earned on its retained cash, the interest on its retained cash was greater than the profits of the next 7 competitors in the computing industry. Now, if you want dominance, if you want commercial dominance, even Google can't quite command that idle cash, that much profit. And then, notwithstanding the power, notwithstanding the talent, and notwithstanding that the A-list of students from the University of Waterloo went to IBM, and then they got there, and the herd kicked in for all the talent, and I taught it. Pissed me off royally. And then, Bill Gates, with this crazy idea. And I watched Bill Gates replace IBM as top dog, most influential computing company on earth, make him. IBM has still not recovered its mojo. It's still huge, it's still a whale, it's still trying to do something. It's seriously cool. Tell me what seriously cool thing it does. Watson. It's perfect. Watson. Watson will save IBM. Of course, it's AI. There's no AI except for Watson. Well, but you see, yes, well. So I've watched all these disruptions. I watched Microsoft replace IBM. And then I watched Microsoft become a prisoner of its own success. If it wasn't Windows, it wasn't interested. So it'll then proceed to miss every other major development in computing, including what's that thing called? The internet. Like rather a gigantic thing to miss, don't you suppose? Bill, what were you thinking? And what were my former students who were supposed to be there saying, Bill, what are you thinking? It's the internet. It's just the internet. That's all you had to say. Bill, focus on the internet. Wasn't quite sure it was going to be a big thing. Do you know how many times I've listened to informed people tell me that something new was not going to work? They pioneered new stuff themselves, and as soon as another new thing came, they couldn't get their mind out of their new thing, which is now old, into the new thing. So I have to listen to people tell me. Like, for example, the chief technology officer of Microsoft, now departed, thank goodness, who said that voice wasn't going to take off as a way to control computers. Because everyone knows you can keyboard faster than you can talk. What? I was told touch screens wouldn't work. Touch screens, you've heard of them, wouldn't work because human beings are lazy, they like efficiency, and moving a mouse takes less energy than going. And so this will rule forever. Not some idiot telling me that. Not an 18-year-old with no experience. A senior tech executive. Why would I ever speak to my phone when I could go tap, tap on my phone? I don't know. Oh, it's the herd. You can call it prisoner of your past success, but it's the herd. One idea at a time. Ladies and gentlemen, don't tell me you can only have one idea, new idea in your head for your whole life. Please nod your head, say, no, no, man, no, no, save yourself. I'm sorry, I'm not being funny. I lived through all these disruptions, disruption after disruption after disruption, including computer animation, all of them. I watched Google arise. You know how cool it was to watch Google from nothing arise out of the dust? You know about it. I lived it. I have an emotional affinity for disruption. I've watched the buzz. I've felt that feeling. I got to watch Facebook come from nothing to a colossus that bestrides the world. Do you know how interesting that is to watch it? And when you place your when some of those first employees, yes, at Facebook too, are my former students. Oh, how interesting that all is. Don't you understand, ladies and gentlemen? See, I'm a farm kid. And I actually think, and this scares me, that I like disruption better than you. I actually fear that I love technology better than you do. And you think that's impossible. Oh, I see the face. He's thinking impossible. Man, I've loved it longer than you've loved it. Because you haven't been born long enough to love it as long as I've loved it. I'm a farm kid. Do you know a farm kid understands the power of technology? I'm a little kid. Little kids on farms work. And I watch machinery being added to the farm. Now, as it turns out, the farm I live on as a little kid is off-grid. I know it's very modern to be off-grid. We're off-grid because we're so isolated area, hydro will not bring the power lines to us. So I live in a non-electric household. Do you actually know what that means? Like, how did my family feed me? Because my mother and grandmother cooked on a wood stove. You know, wood, like in the pioneer days. Yes, wood stove. Which, I don't know, I survived. You know, you can cook food on wood. You actually can. How do we get water? A pump in the yard. How do you get the water in the house? With a pail. How do you think it would move water into the house? How did you get rid of bodily waste? Out of doors, where God intended. Inside, like what an idea. All right, that has some conveniences, I will admit. My entertainment is a battery-operated radio. The phone, oddly enough, was quite modern. It had no dial. Yes, it had no dial. You picked it up and spoke into it. You see, if you have enough of a history, you actually notice that some things which are old aren't old. Some things which are new are actually old. So if you think voice, speaking at your phone is like new. I always spoke to my phone when I was like 6 years old. Now, it turns out that a real human appeared on the end, like real intelligence appeared on the end of the phone, and I said, I want to talk to Joe. We're in a party line. 12 families share that phone line. No privacy. Like today, no privacy. See, some things, no, but it's to understand the historical dynamic that underlies all of this. I got to watch all of this stuff. I saw television for the first time when I was 12, 13. You think AR, VR is like so cool. I still wonder if it will match the emotional resonance when you're a young person and you see television for the very, very first time. I lived through all of that. And when I finally got to a city, how do we keep things cold in the house? Now we have electricity, but no refrigerators. We have something called an icebox. Wonder what an icebox is. It's really complicated. You techies, you. It's a box with ice in it. What do you think it would be? You're all excited with home delivery. Oh, home delivery. New, it's not a new idea. How do you think we got the ice? The ice came, delivered to the home. Food, you think food delivery. Are all excited about food delivery apps. Can't have more food delivery apps. I know what you want. Food delivery apps. Had food delivered to the house. Selection of groceries, bread, butter, dairy, eggs, came to the house. In a semi-autonomous vehicle, and I'm still 10. Yes, it was a semi-autonomous vehicle. It was the coolest thing. I remember thinking, whoa, semi-autonomous vehicle. I didn't use that language, but I'm thinking, there is the delivery guy. The vehicle moves to each customer, which was, I thought, quite complicated because not every house on the street used the same company. So the vehicle would come, stop in front of the house that was the customer. The worker would go out with a little basket with the food in, go stick it in the house, in the thing called the milk box, a great innovation to make sure that you could have some privacy. And then as the worker was servicing that house, the autonomous vehicle went to the next house, which was like 2-3 houses down. Then the worker walked on an angle, back to the vehicle, stocked up his little basket, and went to the next house. And you would watch the worker and the vehicle going down there. It was the coolest thing. I remember watching it with a great fascination. The technology that was driving the vehicle, by the way? Horse, of course, a horse. Horse. So when you get too excited about the power of artificial intelligence, remember, all it's getting is to the level of horse intelligence. So, well, sorry, it's, so just calm yourself with respect to the excitement of all of this. We'll get to AI in a minute. So, for me, I love disruption. I know what it feels like to see something new, truly, for the first time. A dial telephone with that little wheel that most of you don't even remember anymore. So cool. Never mind my first computer, a Macintosh with a screen this big. And I couldn't have been more engaged. It was like the most wonderful thing. This little screen. Yes. And I want more of it. I want more of it. Oh. But then you were interfering with your own capability. Because now suddenly, I think you're thinking, oh, disruption, good stuff. Yes, but then what about the herd? What about you all running after the same thing? I've seen it, e-commerce. Everyone's doing e-commerce. It was ridiculous. A huge amount of activity, wildly over disproportionate, ill-conceived, vast amounts of money chewed up, and now it settles back down to a sort of steady state, with one behemoth trying to take over the known universe. Again and again, I've watched wave after wave of the herd running. My God, you run fast. Just like the chickens. And now, while you do Flavor of the Month, I watch you in the valley. Oh my goodness, you know what it is in the valley. It's like almost dance art form. Oh, those young people chasing the next big thing. Don't you tell me that's not what they're doing in Silicon Valley. I know. They're chasing the next big thing. Notice, they're chasing it, not creating it. I'm in a techish watering hole. I'm talking to one of my former students. We're having an intense conversation about his enterprise and the severely cool technology he's developing. But we're in a crowded, noisy bar, and that should be okay. But on a small table, he's facing me. Behind him, sitting facing that direction, another table, is a guy, and it's fairly clear he has gotten interested in our conversation. Some creepo. And you can see him. He's nudging his chair back. We're talking. He's nudging his chair back more. Now he's leaning back like he could not. It was about as most transparent a thing as you possibly could imagine, because he was one of the young dudes looking for the next big thing. And so spook on everyone's conversation. It's why they changed jobs in Silicon Valley every 2.5 months. Because if after you've worked at 2.5 months, it isn't the next hot thing, you must run off and find another employer with the next hot thing as you run like a crazy person, causing the cost of training you to go through the roof. Which is why this is a good place, because you're Canadian and don't like moving too much, it scares you. Which is a huge advantage to the economy, by the way. Oh, by the way, this idiot who was intruding in our conversation, my students are under my absolute protection. I will not have things stolen from them. So I leaned towards him in a conspiratorial tone and said, mumble, 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 billions, mumble, 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 Mark, mumble, 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 billions more. The guy leaned back so far, he nearly fell off of his chair, and then we left abruptly. I hope he spent the whole night with dying of curiosity trying to figure out what billions, mumble, mumble, and Mark was doing next. So, ladies and gentlemen, your dual personalities confuse me, and sometimes you confuse yourself. You sometimes switch back and forth between rebel and follower that you get dizzy. And not the kind of pivot dizzy. Well, we'll get to pivot in a minute. But different version of pivot. You spin around and topple over. I know the mantra. You all know it. That's the power of the culture, which encourages thoughtfulness. It is the motto of Silicon Valley, thoughtfulness. It's the model of the problem lab. Be thoughtful before you create something. Be thoughtful before you start creating it. Be thoughtful. Because we stole it from Silicon Valley. Not. Oh, really? Really? Look, with all those spies, yes, I am like it takes 3-4 of you to equal my age. It doesn't change the fact that notwithstanding that, I know all your slogans. Because sloganeering is how you conduct yourself. Fail often. Fail fast. But then you don't know what the next, what's the next, the phrase? Fail often, fail fast. What's the next word? Die. That's the next word. Sorry. I want to talk about what the problem lab is doing. Because the problem lab is trying to lean against this herd mentality. But I take it very seriously. I am in love with technology. I'm in love with disruption. I have no doubt about your talent. And I'm afraid you're applying it to lesser purpose. And that's what drives, the problem lab. You talk about R&D all the time. The truth is, most of the time, you want to do the D, the safe development, for which there is no risk of the thing failing. The R part, that's the scary part. That's the part you tend to stand down from. Ooh, research. Because I have to say, fail often, fail fast. No, I say, be patient. It's really popular to take a young person and say, be patient. It's just what you want your grandmother to say, be patient. See, look, I see that face. He's already, like he doesn't even like me to say the word patience is like a curse. But that's the problem we have. New enterprise, is failing in America. Funny, Silicon Valley tends not to tell you that, does it? It tends not to tell you that for the past 15 years, systemic startups in America are failing. So don't you think this would make us think, non-herd-like, what's wrong with this? And the figures are like overwhelming. For 15 years, the proportion of all companies in America is rising. Now, how can we have all this startup activity celebrated? And I'm one of the ones celebrating it. How can we have all this startup activity and big companies becoming an increasing proportion of all companies in America? Because, of course, they're systemically failing. Right now in the United States, company exit exceeds company entry. So the net number of enterprises is actually falling. Go, startups, go. What are you doing? Something's not right. There's a systemic failure there. So if you worship at fail often, fail fast, that's why die is, in fact, the right word. Because the stats say you are dying. This is not me trying to be cute. I'm an economist. I'm an applied scientist, as are you mostly. And as an applied scientist, it's the data. And if I run these numbers, by the way, as proportion generating employment, it's even worse. That the proportion of employment, to an increasing degree, created by old companies, not the new ones. So you see, the problem lab believes there's a problem we're going to address. And you will look in vain for Silicon Valley having serious debate about this issue. They would have to stand up in public, and Elon would have to say, what are we doing wrong? Well, the University of Waterloo is prepared to say, what are we doing wrong? We in general. And what collectively can we do better? From which the problem lab arises as a possible solution. Did you notice? Did you notice the Canadianism sneaking in? Could help us? Will help us. See, I've spent too much time with the California boys. Now I'm enough with the tentative anything. The problem lab will address this. We may need other things to address it, but the problem lab will make a contribution. Our mandate, as Nabil said, is to help find and understand important problems with the emphasis is understanding the problems. Finding problems, no big deal. Important problems. Easy to find important problems. Understand them well enough to solve them, that's a different issue. So we look out and we see all the issues that the technology world is not dealing with. Facebook presents itself and says that it is not, they cannot and will not be arbiters of truth. They say that as if that was their choice, as if that was a choice they could make. That train has left the station. The response for the moment is very innovative: to hire employees. You're techie. People scaling is not actually what scalable is supposed to mean when we're talking about technology. Let's hire more people to look at screens. Doesn't it occur to you that that can't quite be the commanding answer? People sneak up on me. So, just think about it for a moment. These great questions are not getting addressed because it would be difficult. It's not immediately clear how you do it. But isn't that what the disruptor is looking for? Isn't that what the maverick is looking for? A mission, a cause. Your 15-second elevator pitch. My elevator pitch, I am creating a truth engine. Nothing else be said. Who's going to say, gee, we don't need a truth engine? Who's going to say that? Who's going to say that? Big financial institutions going to say we don't need a truth engine? Facebook going to say we don't need a truth engine? Nobody's going to say we don't need one. You in your heart know you need one. And why are half of you not working on it? Because the commercial opportunities are so vast. Or have you, like poor Google, got stuck in a herd mentality itself? There's Google. Weren't they rebels in the beginning? Radical change, create this enormous empire, destroy print media practically. That's maverick by any definition. Disrupt the old empires, build a new empire, create wonderful stuff, give a source of information not otherwise available. And then they settle in and miss the next wave of computing. Right? Right? Don't you find it interesting that Google is number 3 in an important tech marketplace? Actually, a poor number 3? Don't you think, whoa, did the boys take their eye off the ball? How could, with all that money and all that talent, non-herd-like talent, one hopes, how could they have missed the next big thing in computing? How could they? They did. And the merchant got to it first. We are, of course, talking about their number 3 position in. Sorry? Cloud, number 3 in cloud. Have you heard of the cloud? It's of rather some consequence. See, I lived through cloud herd too. Yeah, 1 minute there's no cloud, of course there was, but we didn't call it a cloud. The next minute, cloud is the flavor of the month. We're all stampeding into the cloud. Poor Google's asleep. The stampede's underway. Oh, yes. Oh, us too. So now they're spending a lot of money to catch up to, you know who's number 2? Microsoft. Do you know how odd it is for Google to be second to Microsoft? Do you actually understand the great scheme of things? It looks like the gods are laughing their head off. Ha ha, ha ha, ha ha. Think you killed me, right? Ha ha, ha ha. I'm gaining on you. Oh, I'm ahead of you. Ha ha. There is justice in the world. You danced on my grave a little too prematurely.
Microsoft claims they are number 1.
If they claim they're number 1, that is quite interesting. I think Jeff will find that an interesting observation. And quite apart from that, Jeff got to the cloud by accident, oddly enough, not as part of a strategic decision. And what was Google thinking? Well, you know what Google was thinking. It was thinking search, advertising, and cars. When possibly it should have just extended the technology. So, what the Problem Lab is going to do is to draw to the attention of the university community, and of course the local tech community too, gigantic unsolved problems, which are without a doubt, if you can solve them, the next empires. They'll be an empire built on truth. Truth is in such scarce supply. You get demand and supply, do you not, ladies and gentlemen? Short supply, high demand. Don't have the truth, you die. Don't have the truth, your investment portfolio crashes. Don't have the truth, your market collapses on you. Don't have the truth, you vote for... Not going to go there, not going to go there. My blood pressure will go up and it'll not good for me. So, but not just that. So, for example, I'm not just saying, oh, do a truth engine. I'm saying, think about it. The Problem Lab is already. We've identified, for example, an unexplored avenue in scaling up a truth machine. It has to be a machine. We're not hiring people. Well, at least not the primary vehicle. And there's a gap. There's a big unexplored gap. A way you could create a truth engine, a little out of the ordinary. It, of course, uses AI. Now, I know some of you watched The Big Bang Theory, so I will say that was sarcasm in case you didn't notice. I'm sorry, addicted to The Big Bang Theory. I've taught all of those characters. I have, not the actors, but the characters. I've had them all. I've taught several Sheldon Coopers. It's amazing. It really, I'm sorry, he's about as authentic a character as I've ever seen created for the popular media. AI, indeed. AI, it's a flavor of the month. It's another herd instinct. What's not AI? We've AI everywhere. I have not now seen a business plan that's not AI. Just like I once never saw a business plan that wasn't dot something. You took perfect normal, not e-commerce things and stuck a dot thing and then corporate name so you could say, yes, yes, us too. So now, of course, AI. AI is the flavor of the month. We're all doing AI and it's all going to work. So we'll simply wait for AI to get so spooky that it will be the truth engine. We may have to wait a long time since there's a systemic problem with respect to AI identifying truth, and the Problem Lab has already identified that weakness. And we've identified a gap in the research, which we'll offer to our students. So if they understand the problem, they will see the gap and therefore not start trying to solve it blindly. Now, did you think that I hate AI? Since I seem to make light of it as the panacea that will cure everything from cancer to hangnails. No, I think AI is a powerful tool. Like overhyped like any new thing is, but a powerful tool. So we've identified an AI application in the Problem Lab. It's the coolest thing. You see, if you think about AI, you will discover what its great weakness is quite clearly, which is, of course, the training data. No data, it can't learn. No, you got to drag that horse from house to house to house to house so it learns the route. So you got to take the machine and make it learn. So it's completely constrained by the data set. And there's enormous, gigantic commercial opportunity to create an AI solution, but the data doesn't exist. Doesn't exist at all. Doesn't exist anywhere. But it's within the realm of technology to create a tool to collect the data. And only you would have the data. The AI would be quite routine, not routine, but develop advanced AI, but you can find advanced AI. There's not a monopoly on that. But you'd have a monopoly. I'm an economist. Empire builders like monopolies. Ask Google. You'd have a monopoly on the training data. You'd use the AI engine to produce the results. You're the only one with the results. Here's a question. Would you charge a high price or a low price? Yes, high, bingo. Don't you see, ladies and gentlemen? Do you see how we're trying to help you? We're trying to pay attention to the commercial dynamics, help you find a monopoly. Yes, it's using AI, but it's concentrating on the primary weakness, which is the unavailability of the data. And we can't find a single company that is developing the technology to produce this particular set of data. Can't you hear an alarm bell going off? Ding-a-ling, ding-a-ling. Empire, ding-a-ling. And notice the key point. Can't find anyone else doing it. So now, can you put the herd behind you? Can you stand alone? Can you stand alone? Can you stand alone? When you are explaining what you're doing and your friends say, huh? And you're so pleased because your friends don't know what you're talking about. And you think, yes, I got something to first. Huge obstacle, by the way, to create that technology, but not impossible. We're not asking you to create cold fusion. Conceptually, the technology to collect this data is already well known, and bits and pieces of it exist, although dissipated all over and not as summarized for this purpose. Well, well. We've looked at the recommender engines. Fatally flawed. Fatally flawed. The recommender engines, which drive much of e-commerce, from Netflix to Amazon, with a fundamental inherent flaw. And a solution which logically awaits, which nobody is actually exploring. Because the solution is diametrically opposed to the present method. So, if you have to think about it, you have to take your head and run it in complete reverse. While the chickens run west, you run dead east as fast as you can move, with the confidence that you're right and the herd is wrong. We've looked at cybersecurity. Cybersecurity, like, you don't want to tell me it's not important. The whole virtual world sits on the security of the internet and the authentication and the password. Cybersecurity. A major hack can destroy a whole financial institution or grievously wound a gigantic organization as target, for example. And cybersecurity has two flaws. Two flaws. One flaw that that few people are addressing, with little activity in it. So, that's the secret. Want to build an empire? Go where others aren't, or at least where there's only a few, where the herd isn't. So, on one aspect of cybersecurity, almost no activity. Doesn't that sound attractive? Nobody but you. Or does it scare you? Nobody but you. You think it'll scare the investors? It will scare some investors. I didn't just say you were sheep-like. Investors certainly make chickens look like free thinkers, all too often. We need brave investors. We need brave entrepreneurs. Oh, by the way, on one of the flaws of cybersecurity, quantum encryption won't help. Now, quantum encryption isn't here yet. It looks like it can be here. But not even fix it. Can't be fixed by quantum mechanics. Well, well. Do you hear the alarm bells? Empire. You. His company. Guardian of the integrity of the internet. Don't you suppose, if you had a monopoly on being able to do that, don't you suppose Mark would look at you in envy and say, please protect my network too. Whatever you want is yours. And when he makes an acquisition offer, you will have the power to decline. I'm here with a single message. Be thoughtful. Be brave. Be patient. Old virtues from an old guy who's seen them work. The Problem Lab has now the resources to support students doing research in these developments, courtesy of Mike Lazaridis and Doug Freegan, the co-founders of Research in Motion. I know it has a new name now. but it's research in motion to me. They were the second set of students I saw developing enterprise at the University of Waterloo. And they're kindly supporting us. Effectively, virtually all of their money goes to the students to do their research and development. We have one excellent team right now doing cryocooling, an essential technology underpinning a whole bunch of other technologies, including quantum experimentation, superconducting, and MRIs, for example. So that's what we're about. Be thoughtful, be brave, turn your back on the herd. That's why you need bravery. And create more wondrously disruptive things. Under no set of circumstance would I wish you luck, because luck is what you wish, idiots. Well, yes, because only luck will save them. I wish you all success in your own personal endeavors and in those of your enterprises. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Larry. We do have some questions coming in on Slack, and we'll definitely take some questions from the crowd. We have about 15 or so minutes left. So Vikram asks, Larry, you could be in any city, any technology community you'd like. Montreal, San Francisco, Tel Aviv, London, whatever. Why do you choose to be in Waterloo?
I choose to be in Waterloo for one ridiculously simple reason, because the University of Waterloo is here. Okay, I'll be American and not pretend to be not modest at all. I have been seduced by other universities. I stay here. I stay here for one primary reason, and that's the co-op system. I do not speak casually about the immaturity of judgment of what the co-op system does for our students. I've actually taught once, simultaneously, in 2 universities. It was amazing. I would teach graduate business students in one place, and then I would come the next night and teach my undergraduates, some of whom were 2nd and 3rd year students, and I got better questions from them than I got from the older students in the MBA program, solely because of co-op, not because the other students weren't smart, but co-op gave a depth of experience. It is one of the reasons we will build a problem lab at the University of Waterloo, because we have amongst young, relatively young people, we have the talent, we have some of the best students in the world, we have the energy, and co-op gives them a set of experiences which makes them, in terms of what they know, what they feel, superior to someone with an equivalent education in a non-co-op environment. If co-op were somewhere else, I might migrate after it. I am here by choice in Waterloo, not because I am too lazy to move. No, I'm here by choice, explicit by choice.
And on that point, Daniel asks, what is the process with respects to the problem lab's problem solving? What does that look like?
Oh, the problem lab uses a proprietary secret methodology to analyze problems, not. You know what we do? We use philosophy 101, the most ridiculous form of basic logic you can imagine. So first, if you're going to understand a problem, finding an important problem is easy. Just listen to people who are powerful and rich whining and complaining about things killing them. So let's the financial industry explain about the problems with cybersecurity, and you know there's a huge marketplace. So in order to understand it, first define it exactly, define it precisely, not so narrow. You define away the solution, but not so broadly it's so unmanageable to research it. That's a pragmatic decision which philosophers have talked about for a long time. In other words, define your question correctly. And then, before you leap into action, look, yes, I know your genetic wiring between your ears impels you to take action, because 112,000 years ago, his ancestor saw a tiger coming down the pathway. His ancestor had 2 choices: to stand there and think, gee, I wonder what I should do. I think I'll have a thoughtful analysis of all my options. And then that ancestor would have been eaten, and this person would not be sitting here. No, his ancestor leaped to the conclusion, run, fight or flee. The only trouble is it's not a good impulse for enterprise. So you have to restrain the part of your brain that is like 150,000 years old. This isn't the jungle anymore. A wild animal isn't about to bite you, and you need to be thoughtful. So to understand the problem, what weirdo methodology will you use? And well, first you will ask some really straightforward questions. What's causing this problem? What other problem is my chosen problem causing? So what is the environment? What factors are affecting the problem? So the environment. What is the effect? What is the cause? Are you a primary problem or are you a secondary problem? That's philosophy 101, nothing unique. The only thing we're doing is using money to bribe students to do it. Sorry, it may be unsophisticated, but it is reliable. Money to support the R&D and free pizza, and we are able to do something. And then the third thing, which is often overlooked, is historical analysis. Tell me where the problem came from, because when you know where the problem came from, you're actually going to be able to see the momentum of history. I'm actually asking you to be like me, to be an old person who actually sees the evolution from a stupid radio to TV, to high-definition TV. So now I sit near that farm in the most isolated part of Ontario with a fiber optic line 50 feet away from me, which means I have high-speed internet access and I can work at home, which is 500 kilometers away from here. So I don't leave the, so I'm at the University of Waterloo only virtually some of the time, because other times I'm at home where I want to be because I choose to be near the chickens. So historical analysis, and last piece, because this is important, the last thing, while you do that historical analysis, what's the history of the problem? For RBC, we gave them 5,000 years of the history of authentication. It is that old, by the way. And the lesson from that 5,000 years sequence was directly applicable to the student team creating the prototype. And the lesson, by the way, for 5,000 years is every authentication technique gets replaced by a new technology. So if you wanted to be sensitive to how technology applies to authentication, you couldn't do it better. And as part of the historical analysis, you look for a very key question. Who made a mistake? Mistake was made in the previous attempts to solve it, because after all, right, if it's unsolved now, why would you look at it if it was solved? Yes, the herd would look at it. The non-herd looks at it because it's not solved. Why is it not solved? Someone's made a mistake, something they forgot to do, some assumption they got wrong, some failure to communicate properly, some failure to do research. That failure analysis then leads you to your first step of research. Plain vanilla as get out, notwithstanding the fact that it is not popular.
So you go all the way back to the root of the problem.
Yes.
Noted. Okay, do we have any, yes?
You mentioned luck. And I'm referring to Amazon Cloud and also to Android. Larry Page said that they bought Android, didn't know what to do with it, and became a success. So, you know, sometimes the life is ironic, yeah?
Certainly life is ironic sometimes, and certain things unfold by luck. However, I'm a professor, so I will stand on teaching my students how not to use luck. I cannot responsibly stand in front of someone and say your entire destiny, your life, your talent is all going to be the roll of the dice. I cannot responsibly say that. You are quite correct to observe, and this is okay, now let's do failure analysis, a fallacy of the valley. I can go through 14 valley fallacies, but this is a key one. So they will observe quite correctly, a lot of these iconic startups, Facebook also would qualify, are more accidental circumstances. Something happened that you didn't anticipate and you were smart enough not to turn your back on it. I mean, I compliment you on not being smart enough not to turn your back on it, because some people would have, but that you found it accidentally. So this is the problem in the Valley, which is why it drives me crazy. It is a collection of some extraordinarily talented people. You could argue, given this size of the place, that it is the largest concentration of highly talented men and women that you can actually find on the planet. And much of that talent is wasted because of this luck issue. It is, of course, because if I took 10,000 highly talented people, took a spoon and stirred them vigorously, and say, just try, fail often, fail fast, try, just stir, try something. Man, what you sitting there for? Try. Don't thinking too much is going to slow you down. Just try something. There's always somebody in California who'll give you a few dollars to try an experiment. VCs don't even pretend that they're picking winners. They pretend that they pick enough that all they need is one killer winner out of a whole pack of them. They're playing the odds. But you see, sir, and the odds do work. Those 10,000 people occasionally kick up brilliant ideas. But systemically, the stats show they're failing collectively. That's why I will reject luck, because if I look at the whole thing, we can cite lots of individual examples of luck happening, since, by the way, thoughtfulness is so rare, most of the successes are, in fact, by luck, but that is a statistical sampling bias. Come on, you're men and women of applied science, statistical sampling bias you should understand. Otherwise, don't try to build anything, it'll blow up. So, but it is serious, right? There's the impression that it's all black swan stuff. It will just sort of happen, and if I'm lucky, I'll be in the right place. So I have to do lots of things to move in lots of places, and then once lightning will come from heaven and hit me. I can't recommend that to my students, sir. Yes?
How do people from the private sector of the region get involved with the Problem Lab?
Well, it's very complicated. You talk to me about it. Beginning of April, we're going to announce a major, I can't do it now because UW likes its announcements done in an organized fashion, but a major IT firm and the Problem Lab will also make an agreement. And we will be providing problem analysis to that IT company. Now, also, let me speak candidly. I cannot use the taxpayers' money to help the success of a private enterprise. I can, however, use the money of a private enterprise to supervise students. The money will go primarily to the students to pay them either as co-op or as specialized projects. So for the announcement in April, it will be largely specialized projects where the Problem Lab will take responsibility. The company will define what they think some of their problems are, designate some problems. They will also designate, they believe, some problems of their clients. And then the Problem Lab will supervise the students. And the IT company will be paying for this because, in fact, there is no legitimate way to pay for it elsewhere. So we can't use private money for that. We can use your money so long as, no, seriously, as long as most of it's going to students. Now, we'll still supervise them. We have a cadre of faculty members who are well familiar with the methodology that I've just talked about, which is like very straightforward. There is nothing in the methodologies that's contentious. It is, I'm serious, philosophy 101, brute logic of how you try to understand something. Now, the only caveat I would make is the Problem Lab focuses only on understanding the problem. The solution is either other aspects of the university, because we have, as you perfectly well know, all sorts of facilities to help solve things, and or, of course, the person who's asking for this problem analysis. So we do problem analysis only, but what we're looking for is that actionable next step. So when we do the problem analysis, we look for that, what we call actionable failure. It is a documented failure to do something. So in the case of cybersecurity, I talked about a few moments ago, we've identified a gap. Like a logical, like we look at everything that's being done, we survey all the activity, including the R&D activity. We have some challenges with that since some of the activity in cybersecurity is done in stealth, because after all, you won't tell the hackers what the weaknesses are. Of course, that means some people don't know where the weaknesses are, so it's kind of a vicious, strange circle. However, I have enough spies, so I actually have spies in the spies, so like this, totally peculiar. So for example, we've identified a gap in the approach, and the gap we identified, we also noticed would not be cured by quantum encryption. So that gets even more interesting, because even when quantum encryption occurs, which will be stronger encryption by any standard unless the mathies are all completely nuts, and they're not, the solution in this space, which is unoccupied, would still be applicable for at least, as far as one can see, decades forward. Now, do you see why that would be an actionable mistake of great consequence? Now, not, of course, because I would tell you how you were going to actually do the research within that space. I could say this space is unoccupied. There's logic to believe if you could answer the question in this space, you would create great commercial value. I can say what's interesting is nobody's tried. So you can't say impossible. Like if 50 people try something, really don't try the 51st time. That was Einstein's definition of insanity, trying the same thing again and again, thinking you're going to get a different solution. So we look at all of those examples, first to stop you from wasting your time. Like really and truly, let's not waste time and resources. None of us have time and resources to waste. So don't reinvent square wheels. But if there's no activity in a space, and it's logical to imagine there's a problem here. Well, we know there's a problem. We know there's no activity. Do you see why that would give you a logical opening into your own R&D to create an R&D plan, which is really research and then development after. So that would be the basic approach. So we're open. In fact, we invite private sector employment. My goal is really simple, to make sure that the talent of the students of the University of Waterloo are realized in their highest expression, so that they achieve their potential. Not that they do something useful, but they do the most useful, wonderful thing they can do. If you have an opportunity, I would be happy to facilitate those students in your direction on your nickel. I'm sorry if that sounds like sales pitch, but I'm sorry, that's literally the case. I am not at liberty to use taxpayers' money to help a private enterprise. So,
didn't you just contradict yourself a little bit there
possibly.
by saying the IT company is going to identify their own problems? Aren't they the herd? And by them identifying problems that you're going to solve, and they're not allowing the Mavericks to identify those problems
yes,
within the
that is a possibility. So, for example, when we worked with RBC, we worked with RBC to make sure that we were defining the problem lab will work with. So literally, it is not the case that you can bring any problem to us, because if it's a routine problem, we have nothing, we can't help you. Right. So if we can't help you, if it's a routine problem, we'll solve it in the routine way. You certainly don't need us, right? So in terms of that IT company that's coming to us, or any private sector organization coming, we, the problem lab, and you have to agree on what is a strategically important problem. And if we think you're just running with the herd, and you tell me you want an AI-mandated food delivery app connected to a fitness app, which will actually order the food telling you what to eat, I will tell you that's interesting, go away. If you, well, I will, right? Because it's just a mishmash of trendy ideas all gluing 3 trendy ideas together does not make an innovation. But I would say, tell me what industry you're in. By the way, for a whole bunch of industries, we are doing preemptive research. So depending what industry you're in, we actually already have identified a list of problems. So if you're cybersecurity, we've done it already. If you're recommender engines, we've already found a gap in recommender engines that is the polar extreme of what they use now, and we see almost no activity there. So if you were in that industry, we would draw that to your attention. If it was a different industry we hadn't done work on, we would also look at the industry first and then come to some agreement. We're looking for the non-herd problem. And of course, if what we suggested to you didn't make sense, well, then you would have your right to just not proceed. But yes, there's the, and because we're trying to liberate you from the herd, we're first trying to be very sensitive that we don't get stuck in herd mentality. So we do a bunch of things to try to prevent that actively. And we'll try to do those same things with you. But just so you understand, the model of this relationship with the private sector is not you hire us as consultants. Because you may ask us to do the wrong thing. And I say, sir, with respect to anyone in the private sector, I will not ask my students to waste their time on a minor matter. Our mandate from the university is very clear. The UW supports the problem lab because it's only important problems. We're not duplicating other activities. We don't get involved in the solution space. So we're just the problem experts. So if you want problem experts, then we may be able to work with you. But you can't just bring a problem and say, here it is. Because we would say, strange problem this is. It's been solved 13 times already in Afghanistan. Just look at the solution which exists, for example. So yes, the danger is there, and we're mindful of it. And RBC was mindful of it. Like, it is to their credit that they're trying to encourage internal innovation, which they believe is necessary for modern organizations, notwithstanding such an old one and such a large one and such a powerful one. You see, they fear of success. Being prisoner of their past success, and they want to liberate themselves from it. And therefore, the work with us was part of their serious attempt to encourage internal innovation, which we're happy to participate in. Because obviously, if we can help, I'm going to say this horrible word, empower your own staffs to create better stuff. Like, the herd instinct afflicts us all. I'm not telling you I'm immune to it. I'm telling you I fought against it and become very sensitive to it. See, when you live through, I don't know, in my lifetime, at least 6 herd thundering, you become sensitive to it. You can hear the hoofbeats. Think, oh, the herd is stirring. When suddenly my email explodes and every second message has AI in it. Do you understand why that's so weird? And to avoid the herd instinct, the real way to do it is simply rigorous research. Yes, now I sound like an old professor, don't I? Do your homework. Consult real sources. Understand that Google is not the source of all knowledge. for example. Let's see, I'll find a new idea by asking a machine that is designed to answer questions, the same answer for 1 billion people. Great place to find restaurants. Not such a good place to find the next big thing, the real next big thing. Or what next big thing you should create. I'm sorry, I take this very seriously.
Last question.
Right, a couple of questions to try and understand a little bit more. You talked about a few things that you wouldn't do, like consulting. You talked about IP and some of those other things. From an industry standpoint, when people are approaching the problem group or the team, what are they expecting any IP in return? You obviously said mashups are not the things that you're going to be driving towards. Is that a problem definition or a solution directioning, or how do you characterize the...
When we work with a private partner, we have to jointly agree on what the output is going to be. Now, the only output is going to be problem analysis, nothing else. So if you want solution space, you're in the wrong place. So we do this thorough problem analysis. The problem analysis, if you're a private enterprise and you are paying for us to do this service, all the IP would go to you. Now, and it's going to depend on the exact circumstances because, as you know, our students control their own IP. However, obviously, if they're employed as part of a formal process, then the person who's paying for them has the IP rights. So, for example, our co-op students, when they're co-op students, the IP they're creating is for their employers. When they're sitting in my classroom, the IP they're creating is for themselves, not for the institution. So UW has enough lawyers. We try to be very, we have to be mindful of IP issues. I am sorry, I am first a student advocate, so I must be mindful of my students' interests. But if they're being paid to do a piece of problem analysis, the result belongs to the person who's paid for it, unless I'm paying for it, in which case it then belongs to the public, because I'm paying for it as with the taxpayers' money or with donated money, which is intended to be in the public domain. Does that make sense? Yeah.
It's our desire with the Terminal Tech Talks to provide educational, entertaining, and fun talks for the community, both the terminal community and the community writ large. And so one more time, if you could join me in thanking Professor Larry Smith for taking some time out of his schedule.